Good?
That one's
All right.
off.
I'm told we are live. It must be 6 o'clock. In accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws 1985, Section 30-4-80-E, the following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. If I could ask you all to please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have all received a copy of the agenda. Were there any adjustments or corrections? And that will stand with unanimous consent. We've got a lot of guests with us tonight because we've got some special recognition. So we've got several that we're going to recognize, and I believe Mr. Young is going to help us facilitate that.
Yes, thank you. First, I think we can all agree that this is our favorite part of school
Absolutely.
board meetings. We get to recognize our coaches and, most importantly, our student athletes that work so hard to be recognized here and represent our schools. So first, want to introduce our head swim coach at Fort Mill High School. She's been there 17 years, believe it or not, and already has 4 state championships. So Cindy Van Buskirk, if you'll come up.
Anna, South Carolina Coach of the Year. Greg. Anna, South Carolina Coach of the Year.
That's true. She was also South Carolina Coach of the Year. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, school board, for taking this time to allow me to recognize my phenomenal girl swimmers. There are 20 on the team. There's 6 that are away tonight at concerts and lacrosse games, very, very busy student athletes. This group of girls did an amazing job at the state meet. They went head-to-head with a team, Eastside, that had won 7 years in a row down in 4A, and they got bumped to 5A. And we said, welcome to 5A, by beating them by 83 points. They were phenomenal opponents, but these girls rose to the occasion for every single event. I'm very proud to say that we can send 4 swimmers for each event, and we filled each one of those and had an amazing swim right up to the end. I would like to acknowledge the captains of this state champion team: Josie Chandler, Selena Vu, and Ava Corby. I told them they could wave, do a cartwheel, whatever they felt like doing. I would like to congratulate you girls on a phenomenal season. And yes, everyone, I do want to brag. These are 3-peat state champions. This is their 3rd year in a row winning 5A.
Wow.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say something about the coaches that are standing up here, because I do not do it all by myself. Jenna Pahowski and Doug Fleck. All right.
All right, Coach Van Buskirk, don't go too far, because next we're going to recognize 2 student athletes at Fort Mill High School, Turner Wyand and Dominic Impens.
Thank you, school board, once again for this opportunity to recognize these 2 outstanding individuals, Turner Wyand and Dominic Impens. First and foremost, I would like to recognize they're only juniors, so they'll be coming back to me next year. They did something that only 10 other swimmers since the beginning of high school swimming in the state of South Carolina has done, which is win every single one of their events at the high school state meet. Wow. They won all 4 gold medals. Turner Wyand won the 50 free, the medley relay, the 100 backstroke, and the 400 free relay. Dominic Impens won the 100 free, the 100 breast, the 200 medley relay with his buddy Turner, and the 400 free relay with his buddy Turner. Congratulations to these two outstanding athletes. They go into the Palmetto Finest Record Book Hall of Fame at South Carolina High School League because only 10 other swimmers since 1995 have done this, and I am blessed to have had two do it this year. Congratulations, Turner and Dominic.
All right, we're not done with Fort Mill High School. We now, I'd like to recognize Coach Lee Whitaker, who is the cross-country coach at Fort Mill High School, and he will be honoring both the girls and the boys cross-country team for their state championship. He's been there 5 years, and he's won 4 state championships. Coach Lee Whitaker.
I think Coach Van Buskirk and I have become good friends just seeing each other at school board meetings the last few years. So hopefully we'll have another reunion next year for this. But let me just first say thanks to the board and our community for having us here and allowing us to honor these wonderful student athletes. I think they exemplify what it means and what we hope it means to be a part of not only Fort Mill High School, but the Fort Mill community and the Fort Mill School District. I couldn't be more proud of the people they are and the character that they have. They bring an energy to our practices, and I know they take that energy into the school and into the community every single day, and I truly, truly appreciate all that. Up here with us tonight is Avery Moriarty, Mia Zook, Marley Cook, Ben Madej, Tanner Helms, Hudson Haley, Zach Larner, Finn Lacrone, and Isaac Campbell. I hope you'll give these young men and women a hand and honor them for their accomplishment this year.
Nice job, y'all.
Congratulations. It really is amazing, and it's so rewarding to see that it's more than just academics. It's the total student and all the things that they get to do, which is great. On to some actual business. We do have 2 sets of minutes to approve. I'll start with the minutes from November 5th. Were there any adjustments or corrections to those?
No, ma'am.
Those will stand as approved by unanimous consent. November 19th as well?
No, ma'am.
Any adjustments? All right, then those are also approved with unanimous consent. I do have 1 card for public participation. Miss Alicia Benson, if you want to come, there you are. If you want to come to the podium, if you'll just give us your name and address, and then you've got up to 5 minutes to address the board.
Okay. My name's Alicia Benson. Address is 6027 Cloverdale Drive, TGK. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the proposed SoFab solar facility adjacent to the new elementary school. I live in TGK with my husband and my 2 children, and while they're not zoned for the school in question, I'm here because I deeply care about the safety of the families in our community. I want to share a bit about my background, not just to introduce myself, but to give you a sense of why I hope you'll take my perspective seriously. I grew up in Charlotte and attended Davidson Day School before earning my undergraduate degree at UNC in environmental science and a teaching licensure for 6th through 12th grade science. After spending a challenging yet rewarding year as a science teacher, I pivoted into a career in manufacturing as an environmental health and safety manager. I went on to earn a master's in environmental assessment from NC State and became a certified safety professional. Over the decade, I've worked for the Department of Energy as a subject matter expert for safety programs, and I've worked with manufacturing facilities across the United States, Europe, and China to develop world-class environmental and safety systems. I now run my own consulting business specializing in risk assessment, OSHA compliance, and fire hazard mitigation. With this experience, I've seen firsthand the complexities and risks involved in industrial operations, which is why I feel compelled to speak up tonight. This summer, I actually interviewed for the environmental engineer position at SilFab. My initial thought was that if the facility was to be approved, I could play a key role in ensuring compliance and protect the community. I figured if anyone were to be there and if anything went wrong, I would be the honest person to step up, self-report, and fix it. But after my first interview, where I reviewed their building design plans and spoke with their team, I withdrew myself from the process. I didn't feel comfortable taking on the responsibility of overseeing such a high-risk operation given the location. I understand the commitment you all make as a board of trustees. I've served on several boards myself, including the environmental board for the city of Hendersonville, North Carolina, and Los Alamos, New Mexico, as well as the board for Hands-On Children's Museum. I respect the difficult decisions you have to make to serve and protect our community. With SilFab Solar, we need to consider the risks carefully. Their process involves silane gas, a highly toxic and volatile chemical. Silane is the most unpredictable of the pyrophoric gases, igniting spontaneously upon contact with air. It's extremely difficult to control in any emergency. We can have the best engineering controls, PPE, and mitigate the hazards as best as possible, but we're still dealing with an unfamiliar process here. Humans make mistakes, and history shows that the majority of incidents involving silane gas result from failure in engineering controls. When controls fail or people make mistakes, the consequences in this case will be extremely high. You may have been told that in an event of an emergency, silane gas reacts with air to produce harmless byproducts like water vapor and sand. This isn't necessarily true. An incomplete reaction, which is just as likely, will result in dangerous reactive byproducts that are highly explosive. Even during a complete reaction, the silane gas itself is so hazardous that emergency responders would need to be fully isolated due to the unpredictable nature and wear self-contained breathing apparatuses to approach the scene safely. There are complex emergency action plans at play here, requiring coordination with local and state authorities, many of whom are likely unfamiliar with the complexities of handling emergencies involving silane gas. Additionally, the facility operations will require extensive reporting to regulatory agencies due to the significant chemical hazards, complex processes, and large volumes of hazardous materials that will be present on site. My point, which I want to make clear, is that this isn't light industrial assembly work. It's heavy-duty manufacturing. With a location near homes and an elementary school, it creates an unacceptable level of risk. Your role as the Board of Trustees is to protect and serve the community, make difficult decisions, and weigh risks. In conducting risk assessments, we focus on two key factors: the likelihood of something going wrong and the consequences if it does. With SilFab, I'm afraid both are dangerously high. This isn't just about creating jobs or filling a vacant building. It's about safety and responsibility. As the mother of 2 children, I know firsthand it isn't easy to say no and set boundaries, but it's an important role we play and a responsibility we hold. As the school board, I urge you to set the same boundaries and enforce the zoning restrictions we have in place as a community for a reason. Let's work together to find a resolution that prioritizes safety above all else. We don't want to look back and say, hindsight's 20/20, we should have, could have, and would have. One of my favorite lines during safety training that I'll leave you with is this: were you safe today, or did we just get lucky? Let's choose to be safe and not just hope we get lucky. Thank you for your dedication to our schools, our future, and our community.
Thank you. All right, our next item is a staff report from Ms. Lordo, our monthly financials and impact fee update.
Okay, good evening. Tonight I'm reporting out on our monthly financials for October 31st, the 4th month of our fiscal year. What is key about this month is this is the month we are most dependent on our fund balance or our savings for cash flow purposes. So our total revenues were $48,561,000 compared to total expenditures of $67,602,000, So we went into the fund balance for cash flow purposes as expected of $19,040,000. We did once again have strong vehicle tax collections, a little over $2 million for October. And real estate taxes were a little over $3 million, and I think that's because the tax bills went out so early. So it was $3,133,000. Another key piece of October is that's the first month that we start receiving the Act 388 Tier 3 state reimbursements. Those run on a 10-month cycle, and the first payment comes in October, and it was $2,321,000. And so we saw that. I did not have any other significant items that were concerned or apparent to me, but I'm glad to answer any other questions about October if you have any in your review. Okay, if not, I'll move on to impact.
I just would say it'd be really, really quick, just cosmetic.
Sure.
I know you've done this for a couple of months, but I just wanted to say I appreciate the framework and the aesthetics of how you have.
The new report.
Yes,
Thank
correct. I
you.
just wanted to
Yeah,
share that.
great. We're excited
I
about
place a
that.
value on that.
And I will
do.
pass that along to Jonathan as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
So, yes, it's been, we tried to tweak it, and if you see anything that you think, oh, we need to change that or revamp, I mean, please let us know, because we're trying to make it the most useful for you and for the public when we post these documents. So, thank you for that. Impact fees. We have collected to date now a little over $71 million. So $71,263,000. Interest earned continued to be strong for this month, and our total interest earned to date is $6,669,000. Both of those pots of funding are going towards the construction of Flint Hill Elementary School and Flint Hill Middle School. We actually had a very large reimbursement request from the county last week that was over $5 million. So we are definitely in a lot heavier construction invoicing now, and we'll be drawing more frequently on that balance. But we have collected on 2,774 single-family homes and 1,769 multifamily for a total of 4,513 units since July of 2018. November was the largest month that we have seen in 2024. You probably saw on your monthly report, total collections for November were $1,756,206. That was 57 homes and 60 apartments for November. The comparable data is still as we would expect, where we are higher on single-family homes and still a little lower on apartments, even though for November we saw 60 apartments come online. So that may be a sign that we're starting to see more with apartments again.
Do we know where that was at?
This is all Elizabeth, I was gonna tell you.
Yeah.
So this is all Elizabeth, like 95% of this is Elizabeth, and it's townhomes, and it is single families that are completing the west side of the bypass section, and they are gonna start the infrastructure for the roads and whatnot for the east side, and they'll start after the first year. Probably, I would say they'll start construction of one fashion or another by Q3.
With more townhomes?
So
Well,
not-
I don't know if it's
not
gonna be
apartments.
townhomes or, it's not apartments, it's
It's not
townhomes.
apartments, it is
It's
townhomes?
townhomes.
Cool.
Okay, thank you for letting us know about that. Last night, we went in front of the York County Planning Commission. For the first time, our consulting firm, Tischler Bice, Ben Griffin, was here from Maryland representing them. He went through in detail the new impact fee study that they calculated for us, and he presented to the York County Planning Commissioners. Leitner Management Group, Jim Britton and Jay Gaither also went with us and did a great job just discussing what is going on in the construction industry now with the cost escalation in construction pricing, because we knew that was a question from the York County Planning Commission. We thought it went very well. They had submitted a couple list of very detailed questions to us from their review last week, and we had submitted written answers to those. So they did not go through all those in detail last night. So I assume they felt good about our explanations, and a lot of it was around construction and around how we do enrollment projections, things like that that we would expect. They did defer voting last night, so they will take a vote at their January meeting. And I did check today, it is going to be January 13th is the date for their meeting in January. So we will let you know if we hear anything else before that date, if we need to provide any other information or any follow-up to last night's presentations. But
Can I add a couple
Sure,
things
please.
from the meeting last night? So I was pleased with the dialogue and the questions. And some of their questions were things that they were, whether it was for Tischler Weiss or for Leitner. For example, they were trying to understand, okay, you do this all over the country. Is there a common point at which capacity usually gets above a threshold that you see a new school? And he said 80% is a very common across the country with all the schools that they've done this with. And like we were hitting 77 at the point when we first asked, right? So it was very much in line. He talked about the developers and the concern with developers, and Jim Britton alluded to the fact that the primary concern from developers, while nobody likes the size of any fee or anything, that our community has justified that those costs can be absorbed. I mean, just based on the housing costs, but the carrying cost is really the part that builders are still having heartburn over, because it's $20,000 for six. I mean, it's all those
Yeah, they have to pay that
up front, and they don't recoup that until the point that
sell
it's
the
sold.
house.
So, but he also
They carry it for like 3 weeks.
Pretty
Right.
much.
So there was dialogue about that, but again, when asked, that is the standard practice.
Right.
All throughout the country. So what we're doing here is very consistent with what is being done elsewhere. We talked about the pace at which the homes are being built compared to the plan. So Leanne, you just rattled off the numbers, 4,513 units so far.
Right.
At the time that we started doing this, we saw about 9,000 that were planned.
Right.
There's about 4,500 left, plus a few new communities that have come on, like Main Street in TGK, and the discussion about some apartments in Fort Mill and things like that. So the concerns that a lot of people had about how this might affect our community, things are in fact playing out the way we projected in 2016, 17 when we started talking about this. So we were able to answer some of those questions, and I think it provided some comfort and support within the planning commission. I mean, I think the deferral had a lot to do with the language of the ordinance more so than the presentation about the fee calculation, was the sense I got.
yes.
We should point out that this is a different planning commission
Whole new
composite
set of people
than
almost.
our last time.
Yeah,
So it's a
I think one or two
re-education
of
and
the original.
Start over.
So that was my.
Yes.
And from a developer's cost, it's actually the builder more so than the developer. And it comes with permits that are being issued, and if anybody wants to have the discussion as to whether or not they're passing that along dollar for dollar or dollar for inflated dollar, I'll have a sidebar discussion, because,
Would you like to
see it
share?
regularly.
I had asked you to pull what the average
yeah, you did.
home
So,
pricing.
and I don't, you probably have it
I
way
do.
better,
Yeah,
because
we
I
know
have
it.
done a lot of work today. But
So the
our
average,
price per
yeah.
square foot, or price per home average in Fort Mill is almost double
Yes,
anybody around us.
it's currently 641,000
Yeah.
is the average home price in Fort Mill.
And that report that I provided to you does not take into account new construction that does not go through the MLS, or people that buy a lot and then have a builder that comes and builds their home. It doesn't include any of that. This is only that which has gone through the MLS.
Correct. And we shared that last night because in these studies, you have to address how the impact fee would affect affordability.
Right.
And so for that reason, we shared that information with them last night as well. I don't think anyone was surprised.
It was higher than most were expecting, and it is considerably higher than our neighboring communities.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a worthwhile effort. Obviously disappointing to be deferred instead of moving on to county council, but
Yeah.
understood where it was coming from.
But hopefully, that will happen in January, and then we will be on track to start our discussions with county council later in January, or certainly by their first meeting in February. So we're definitely on target with our plan to have this well in advance of the expiration of the current fee next summer in July of 2025.
It does require 3 readings with
Requires 3
council,
readings and a public
and
hearing.
one of which has to be a public hearing.
Correct.
So we may call on our community like we
Yes.
did before to show support. One of the questions they asked was how we felt the community had received it. I pointed out that we have board members that have had to pay it based on having new home builds, and many administrators and others that have bought into the community, and that my feeling anyway is that the community is happy to have folks, as they're moving here, contribute so that it is not all put on the back of existing residents.
Yes.
The audit report is at the printers, so you will be receiving your audit report books, hopefully very soon before the Christmas holiday break.
Oh,
And then David Phillips will be here at your meeting on January 7th for his audit presentation. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is this is the time of year where we get notification. We participate in the state Bank of America purchasing card program. This is our credit card program within the school district, and we receive an annual rebate based on our spend volume. And it is the highest that we've seen yet. We received notification this week that we'll be receiving $100,430. And what we do is we obtain the information on the spend volume by school, and then we allocate that rebate out to our schools based on their spend volume and increase their budgets for second quarter or second semester of the fiscal year. So we will be notifying our schools of their amounts here shortly once we get all the details from Bank of America. So that's a great thing for us to take advantage of.
Fantastic.
Okay? Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Our next agenda item is a report from the School Board Association Legislative Conference that most of us went to this past weekend. I've got a couple notes that I'll share, and then I'll see what else you guys would add. So this is the conference that we do every year in December, where we get ourselves together to look at what we think the legislative session is going to look like for the upcoming year. We hear from a lot of individuals. We heard this time from Ellen Weaver. We heard from state reps. We got an update on federal priorities. They talk about what is likely coming down the pipe. I was very interested to hear from Ellen Weaver. We have not heard from her in quite some time, and to hear some of the things that she has mentioned as her priorities. She's talked about, and we're all familiar with, the reading focus. There is now sort of beginning shift to a math focus, as well as CTE on the horizon. She talked about a program, I'm looking at the words, it's called Character and Resiliency Education, or CARE, C-A-R-E. She talked a lot about mental health. I think we know that mental health is a very necessary topic right now, a very important topic right now. So I was glad to hear that that is something that she is also discussing. Don't know exactly what the CARE program is going to entail, but I was glad to hear that that was a priority being discussed. She talked about a $3,000 raise request for all staff, all teachers, not just entry level or not just first year. It would bring from 47 to 50, but the request was across the board, so I was thrilled to hear that as part of her budget request. And then she also talked about the importance of culture and therefore making sure that we have the right leadership training opportunities for principals who help sort of set the stage for how the culture and the operations happen within the school building, because we know that that is a critical piece of attracting and retaining our key teachers. So I was very pleased to hear the things that she had prioritized. I did tune into the State Senate Education Committee today, where they talked about the choice or private school voucher program, ESA, whatever term it's going to be under. And essentially what I inferred from it, or what I think I heard, is that the legislation that is going to be filed, maybe they said tomorrow, day after, soon, very soon.
I think he said tomorrow.
I thought they said tomorrow, is very similar to the program that was ruled unconstitutional this time. However, the major change is to pull those dollars instead of from the general fund out of the lottery dollars, which are not part of the general fund, and to offset those expenses, whatever those are normally used for, buses and other things, from the general fund. So I think we will learn more about that, but we have that to look forward to in the coming legislation. So those were kind of the things that I had picked up on and highlighted. Everybody else that was there, please feel free to chime in and add in.
She did mention that she's requested and received $20 million a year for safety
Yes?
usage, and she's going to do that again this year and bring it up to a total of 60. Don't know how much that equates to for us as a district, but
Yes.
anyway. it's
Opportunity
putting
for grants.
Right, getting that in there.
Mhm.
The big priority was trying to create the infrastructure bank.
Mhm.
And I don't know exactly how that is going to work, but it's to help. I doubt it's going to impact our district at all, but other districts that can't support referendums, I mean, just financially, they don't have enough value in the community to be able to do that. It will help them to build them up, but that's one of the priorities as well. So hopefully putting some one-time monies in that.
Yeah, for some of the schools that need either to be replaced or repaired.
Yeah. Another topic was trying to standardize the elementary school suspension coding,
Right.
because there's some discrepancy, well,
Inconsistency.
there's some
Yeah.
inconsistencies, and we think data that's coming out is it's not properly reflecting what's really going on in it. Like, numbers are looking higher than they really are.
Inconsistencies aside, it was sad to hear the frequency of suspensions of K through 2 students, and even pre-K.
Pre-K.
Even
That's what I
pre-K,
was gonna
right?
say,
I mean, it
even
was,
pre-K.
that it's sad to hear, and I think that's where some of the focus on mental health and the needs to have the right supports there came
Well,
about.
and the other thing, and we kind of talked a little bit at my strategic planning table yesterday, a 10% chronic absenteeism across the state, and we're kind of starting to see similar numbers. And I think that comes back to a large mental health situation as well. And I think that it's a combined partnership in terms of the child doesn't want to go, and I'm tired of fighting about whatever we've been fighting about for the entire morning, last night, whatever the case happens to be. You don't want to go to school? Fine, don't go to school. And I think that we have to evaluate how we can correct that across the board, not only as a district, but as a state and as a nation.
I mean, she talked about you obviously can't learn if you're not there.
Right.
I always enjoy the panel that was on day 2 this year.
Yeah.
My favorite.
With, you've got folks there from the State Teachers Association, Administrators Association, and I always think that they have great sort of insight for not just to remind us, because I think we are supportive of everything, the things that they were talking about, but reminder for the other school board members in the room. Ryan Bailey, I can't remember if he's with, I think he's with SCASA.
He is.
You'll be happy to know, Ms. Lorda, he was advocating for keeping high, healthy fund balances.
Yes.
He was sort of preaching that to the group. But Mary Rita Watson, or Rita Mary Watson, who's with the State Teachers
I
Association.
thought they
She had
called
a,
her cat.
she had Mary Rita Watson. I wrote her name down. She talked a lot about. I wrote it down. We need to clear a path for teachers to be able to do their job.
Yep.
And I thought that was really insightful. She talked about sort of accountability to death with teachers. That accountability is a good thing, but it's almost to the point where it's creating a little bit of that gap that we're seeing with teacher retention issues. So I thought she had some insightful things, even though I think she was a Browns fan because she made a Cleveland reference and a
Yes, she
football
did.
reference. But I agreed with everything that she said on the stage. So, but I thought that was a great session.
I agree with you. That's always my favorite session. I feel like I could listen to Patrick Kelly
Yes.
for hours
my
and
favorite
hours.
always.
He always just takes a very complicated issue and breaks it down into
Yeah.
small pieces, and makes it easy to understand. And I was fascinated. So many of the panelists, even the lobbyist who said he wasn't a lobbyist from the State Department, they all seem to come back to the idea of respect and respect for teachers as a piece of their respective organizations' platform. And when Patrick Kelly said that they had surveyed their members, and the farther, like, concentric circles of who a teacher works with, the less they feel respected. So they feel pretty respected by their students, by their colleagues, by their administrators, less so by their district office, even less by their school board, and really not at all by their legislators. I was kind of gut checked and just wrote down, how do we, without sending a 400th survey to our teachers,
Right.
how do we find out if they're feeling respected, and if they're not feeling respected by the board, like if we're not providing those opportunities to hear them,
What could
What-
we do
what
so
could
that
we
they
do
would
differently?
feel respected? Yeah.
So I didn't come away with answers. I came away with more questions, but I always do enjoy listening to that roundtable. Maybe more than the legislators themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, they were a little,
The Senate side
What do you-
was good. The House side was
Yeah.
lacking across the board this year. It was a bit disappointing. However, I will take a point of privilege to say that I have the most coveted title in all of the state. I have come home as the immediate past president of the South Carolina School Boards Association. So it's been a great year, and I was proud to serve and proud to represent us. And now let's keep doing what we do.
One thing
Anything
that
else? Yep.
I think Patrick maybe is one told us, but there's 512 pre-filed bills
Yeah.
this year. 65 of those are related to K-12. I would say a majority of these won't see the light of day, but just know that that's what's facing our House and Senate coming up.
We are fortunate. We have a House and a Senate rep from our area on the education committees, so that will at least
Yeah.
allow us to have hopefully some influence and certainly some insight. So,
Hopefully some communication.
Yep. That would be nice.
Wouldn't it
anything
though?
else? All right, believe it or not, that brings us to the end of our open session. We are in need of an executive session to discuss legal issues, contractual matters, and, my page cut off, personnel recommendations. So thanks, everybody, for coming. Happy holidays, because we won't see you again. We don't meet again until January, but we are now going to move into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session?
Thanks, everybody.